It is 7:05 p.m. and I will call this regular meeting of the Dickinson City Council to order. Item 1, call to order and certification of quorum.
Councilmember Simpson.
Present.
Councilwoman Simpson.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Mayor Skipworth.
Here.
Councilmember Brantley.
Here.
Councilmember Decker.
Here.
Councilmember Linton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. If you'd please rise for the invocation. Councilman Simpson, could you lead us in the invocation, please?
O Lord our God, how excellent is your name in all the earth. We thank you for this opportunity to gather once again. We ask your blessing upon this meeting, upon this city, its staff members, its citizens, this county, this state, and this great nation. Keep us all under your protecting care. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Will you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? First, the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas Pledge. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. And if you would please remain standing for just a moment. Those of you that don't know, we had an employee who very sadly passed away this past weekend, Brad Anders, who worked in our Public Works Department. We'll be having some additional tributes for Brad in the near future. And so I'll save some of those words and praise for that time. But if you would please join us in a moment of silence for Brad's passing. Thank you. Please go and be seated. Our next item is proclamation and awards, and it's not on the agenda, but we do have a proclamation this evening, and so I will come forward and deliver the proclamation. We'll do it backwards. Okay. And if y'all would like to come up, I know that you're here for it. You can come up. I can go and deliver it, then you can come up after, or you can come up now, however you'd like to do it. Go on. Come on up. All right. A City of Dickinson proclamation. Whereas Independence Village got its start in 1982 when a lady by the name of Mrs. Gladys Stevenson had a son named Gary. He fell from a tree, incurring a traumatic brain injury. And whereas, as Gary aged, Mrs. Stevenson thought that surely there must be other parents who were equally concerned about the long-term care of their loved ones, so he placed a short ad in the local newspaper. Whereas, from that very small ad, there were 16 parents who showed up, and that passionate group of loving parents began what we have come to know as Independence Village. And whereas that group of individuals gathered the support of dozens of other community members who diligently worked for 10 years, raising funds to help get their vision into reality. Whereas the village opened its doors in October 1992 and has served residents with intellectual and physical disabilities continuously for the past 30 years. And whereas the village is an assisted living facility that offers residential accommodations and supervised care, while creating an environment that cultivates a sense of belonging in the lives of our residents. Now, therefore, I, Sean Skipworth, Mayor of the City of Dickinson, Texas, urge all citizens of Dickinson and surrounding communities to join together in recognition and appreciation of Independence Village for their commitment in being the voice for their residents who valiantly overcome individual challenges every day. In witness thereof, I have set my hand and caused the seal of Dickinson, Texas to be affixed this 23rd day of August, 2022. So if you want to do a picture, we can.
Look at that little dog.
We'll move on to item 5, announcements and presentations. Announcements concerning items of community interest. No action will be taken or discussed. Council member comments regarding let me try again. Council member comments regarding items of community interest in accordance with Texas Government Code, Section 551.0415. Item 5A, council comments. We will start this evening. Let's see, who did I start with last time? Who was it? All right, we'll start with Councilman Simpson.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, city staff, citizens, welcome. Glad to see you all here. Since the last time we've met, I'll talk about it during the part on the agenda, but I attended the Finance Committee meeting and the General Board meeting for the Houston-Galveston Area Council. In addition to condolences to Brad's family, I'd also like to extend condolences to the family of Andre Gray. Andre Gray was a veteran, an NFL football player, educator, and law enforcement officer. His services were Friday, and his burial was yesterday at the National Cemetery. Those are all my comments, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Simpson.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in tonight if you're watching us online and for being here with us in person. We really appreciate your participation always. I, too, would like to send my condolences to the family of Brad Anders. He was a dedicated member of the City of Dickinson Public Works team, and he was recently awarded the Shine Award for his dedicated service, so we were thankful to have had him to be a part of the Dickinson team. The Dickinson Historical Society will be hosting 2 traveling exhibits at the Railroad Depot in September and October. However, the first one that was set to take place over Labor Day has been delayed due to transit issues, so go ahead and stay tuned to their website and their social media for updates. The Dickinson Chamber is hosting their monthly farmers market on Saturday, September 3rd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 1911 FM 517. You can check out the vendors and listen to some live music while you shop. The Dickinson Chamber is also hosting an end-of-summer Great Gatsby soiree on Saturday, September 24th at the Cedar Oaks Bed and Breakfast on Water Street. Come dressed in your Roaring 20s getup, and let's help support the Chamber, who helps us support our local businesses. Tickets are available on their website. Finally, Dickinson ISD is still looking for bus drivers to join Gator Nation's transportation team. Bus drivers start at $21.50 per hour and are entitled to full benefits, an employee clinic, and an employee daycare. No experience is needed. We will train you. It's a great place to work, and we hope to have you join us. Just check out the website, dickinsonisd.org. Thanks, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Councilman Wilson.
Yes, I'd like to welcome everybody that's here tonight and the people that are listening in their homes or wherever they're sitting. First off is tomorrow, Thursday night, our great Gator football team will be taking its first trip on the road to hopefully its future road trip to the state finals. They'll be playing in Humble, Tascasita, who beat us, I think, in the regionals last year by 1 point. So that was a hard pill to swallow. So hopefully it's a great game. If you haven't got anything else to do Thursday night, see if you can make it up to Humble. I'm sure the Gators will be glad to see everybody. And other than that, that's really it.
Councilman Brantley said it's Friday night.
It's Thursday. Well, it's Thursday night.
And it's Thursday.
Yeah.
Councilman Brantley.
Goes to show you what the Booster Club president knows, huh?
It's one of those two. We're doing tickets this Thursday.
You're not calling plays, right? So that'll be good, right?
No wonder my son's playing JV tomorrow night. So, yeah, days run together. Thanks, everybody. For that. Set the bar high tonight, right? Thanks, everybody, for being here. Really appreciate it. I don't see Renee, but I was really proud to announce to Renee that I got my cybersecurity training done. So I wanted to make sure he knew that, and I'll be dang if he's not here. So,
He was earlier.
but the other thing I want to mention, Hope Connection Community Center at Living Faith Outreach. I don't know what the number is as of this past Friday, but their first 3 weeks they have seen 535 kids come through and their families. It really has turned into a family event. There's a lot of families that have been in attendance. So really proud of Pastor John and Pastor Gina at the work that they're doing over there. So a couple of thanks. I wanted to give a word of thanks to Theo and Harrison, our finance director, for spending some time with me talking about different budget initiatives and spending some extra time. Really appreciated that. Wanted to give a huge shout out to Jaree for the work that she's doing on the Red, White, and Bayou Festival, which is next weekend. So I was trying to add up how many days it is until then, but I've already proven that I couldn't do that. So she is making fantastic progress. Really excited about that event. Really excited about the tailgate and grill-off competition. If you are interested in that, please get signed up for our grill-off competition. Spots are filling up pretty fast. I wanted to thank Chase. We can't go a council meeting without recognizing Chase for a job well done. So Chase and Yvonne, I'm sure she's here. Had a issue with a resident this past week. They jumped right on it, did a fantastic job as they normally do. So I wanted to thank you guys for a job well done. And then lastly, I was unaware of Brad's passing until actually the meeting. And so I didn't get an opportunity but to meet him but a couple of times. And I will say that it was impactful. So condolences to his family. That one hit kind of hard. So very sad at Brad's passing. Condolences to his family. With that, Mayor, that's all I've got.
All right, thank you. Councilman Decker.
Thank you. Welcome to everybody that is here. Now that we got the rain, we got to deal with the mosquitoes. If you have a problem, call the county. Make sure they spray your area. Give them your address. Thank you.
And Councilman Linton.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to council. I attended TML training in San Antonio this past week and got my certification for Texas Public Information Act required training and Texas Open Meetings Act required training. And that training is obviously going well for me this week. Took place. But anyway, is this thing on? Here we go. Got to meet a lot of newly elected officials from around the state, talking to them about various issues. It was very interesting meeting these people, challenging at times, but interesting. The only other thing I have is to reiterate what Councilwoman Simpson said about the Chamber of Commerce Farmers Market on the 3rd, and then Red, White, and Bayou on the 3rd and 4th. Get your tickets. Once again, my band will be the first band playing, and we are contributing our performance at no cost to the city. We also have a chamber event. Chamber of Commerce is having their end of year soiree on September 24th. Councilwoman Simpson also referred to that. The last two things I have are condolences to Brad's family. I found out tonight, so very sad. Sorry to hear that. And the last thing is that I set a new record and read all 402 pages of the agenda this time. I'm hoping we max out at 402. That's all I have.
Well, Councilman Linton, I don't know that there's been some longer ones, but okay. But I'd also like to say good evening to everybody. It's good to see people here. I'm glad you're here. I'd like to congratulate our former councilman, King, Pastor King. He, on Sunday, celebrated his 30th anniversary of pastoring, and I was pleased to visit his church and support him in that way. So it was good to see, and I know he's done a lot of good works in the community over that time. So if you run into him, thank him for his 30th anniversary. Also, I have been seeing, school is in session, right? I know I've said this a few times, and Councilwoman Simpson said it a few times, but definitely watch the buses. I'm seeing angry bus drivers take to social media and complain about y'all. Maybe not y'all, but but people are not not kind of honoring the stop sign on the school buses. That is not a suggestion. It is a real stop sign that you're supposed to stop at. So really take that seriously. Please be aware. Please look up in those school zones. They are back on. It's not July anymore. So please. Also say, along with that, it isn't July anymore. So the tropics have come to life, and they will continue to come to life. And we'll be watching every drop of moisture off the coast of Africa until we get into later this year. So, don't panic, don't obsess, but do pay attention, right? Keep an eye on what's going on. It's cliche now, but it's true. Be prepared, as we're going to start seeing the 5-year Harvey media coverage, things like that. It bears remembering that, in case you've forgotten, which I know pretty much none of us have, but please be prepared and learn those lessons. Also like to thank, I know we've had this week, several members of council have been kind of addressing, and staff have been addressing some citizen concerns on Casa Grande with an Airbnb. And I know it is a frustrating process for the residents there. It's a frustrating process for staff and for council we all want to get to a resolution, and we've got to work through it. But I want to thank everybody's efforts from council on down, attempting, doing our best to be responsive to citizens, to do things, to draft, ordinances and things that are needed so we can present at future meetings to try to address problems like that. So in particular, I'd like to thank, I don't know if she's here, Shauna Bello, is she? No, oh, there she is over there. I know she worked on this in particular along with some others. So thank you for your efforts. Shay, you're kind of hiding back there. Okay, all right. There you are. She's a little short, but we love you though anyway. So I do want to thank the staff for that, and the residents for bearing with us. And please, if you're watching or you're here from that area, let us know as things progress, and we'll keep you in the loop. Lastly, I'd like to, I'll put on my government professor hat and encourage all of y'all. We're getting to election season, so we're going to be we don't have any local elections in November here in Dickinson, but they do. Our neighbors do in League City, so you'll see the signs out everywhere. But we do have state and federal elections coming up, so this is where I'm going to urge you, be registered to vote. Go get registered to vote. You have 30 days before election day to register to vote to be eligible. So if you're not registered, please do so. Check your registration. Maybe you've moved. Maybe it's not accurate. Things like that happen. So avoid the issue on election day of showing up to vote and then saying they're like, you're not on the voter roll, and then you can't vote. So do those things and do your civic duty. If you're at a council meeting, I'm expecting y'all to vote in these elections, right? I have high hopes for y'all. So anyway, I want to thank again everybody for being here and all of that. So we'll move on to item 5B, the city manager update. We'll turn it over to the city manager, Theo Melanson. That's right.
HGAC?
Oh, yes, and HGAC. Councilman Simpson. Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. As I noted earlier, I attended the Houston-Galveston Area Council Finance and Budget meeting and the board meeting. Super popular today because I think over 200 of the 400 pages in the packet are from the HGAC meeting. But there was a budget adjustment for their $485 million that they were overseeing just in their operation budget. And so I put that plus the meeting packet. The major thing to note is that the amount of money, the $1.2 billion that was approved for Harvey reconstruction has gone through its process. All the cities have signed off on it except for Houston and Manville. They rejected their initial offers. But we are getting $15.7 million for drainage. As those of you who were here for the budget workshop, that's almost half our budget in outside funding coming to the city to help with infrastructure and drainage. I won't take any credit for that. Again, that's the work of former Councilmember King. He did that. I've gone to all of these meetings since I've been elected, and pretty much all they do is fight over money. It's pretty much.
It's just like real life. I mean,
Yeah,
okay.
it's real life. We've done a great job. The challenge is every time the Houston-Galveston Area Council gets $1, Harris County and Houston want about 50 to 75 cents of that dollar to leave the other 12 counties to fight over the rest. But they've done a great job of those who've come before me in making sure that we were able to get a piece of this $1.2 billion so that I believe Harris County was still able to get $750 million of the $1.2 billion by themselves, and they don't have to share it with the other cities in their county. But that part was done, and the method of distribution has been approved, so we're one more step closer to actually receiving the funds. They had to come up with the method of distribution, then they had to vote on it, then the cities had to accept or reject it. Now they have to have a period where they go through, approve it, and then we have to have shovel-ready projects in order to use the money. This is one of those things where, well, not this one specifically, but there are some where if you don't use it or if you don't have something ready to go, you lose it. And so definitely I want to give kudos to Theo because he always has some projects in the way. We will give no Harvey money back if we can make sure that happens. And he's done a great job of making sure whatever we've gotten has been allocated and planned. But that is what has happened, the major thing that happened in the HGAC meeting. Mayor, thank you.
Our motto there is cold, dead hands, my cold, dead fingers. So we'll fight for that money, I promise you. Theo, I'm going to skip to 5C first because people are here for the animals, so that's my mayoral prerogative. So why don't we do the pet of the week? Go ahead and do the city council pet of the month. Oh, well, I'll do it then. Okay. Let's see. Let's bring up the pet of the month. There's two, I know. Dree's just going to leave with that one.
2 pets.
Which is kind of what we're going for, by the way. So
One you can't see and the big one you can.
This is Mozart. He's about 2 years old. He came to the shelter.
Mozart.
He came to the shelter with a microchip, and after a bunch of research, we were able to track him back to the breeder. So he's 100% English Mastiff, but the chip was never registered to the owner. So, moral of the story: register your chip. Getting a microchip doesn't actually do anything if it's not registered. He's available for adoption now. He's good and healthy and ready to go. He's got a great temperament. Seems like he gets along with everything and everybody. I like to call him Slow-Mo. And this is our little panda bear. He came to the shelter, and I literally waited a couple weeks to post him online because we weren't sure if he was going to make it. He's about 6 months old. He should be about 3 times this size right now. And he was found just malnutrition, eating up with worms and fleas. So he's going to make it now, but we find these kinds of things intaken sense. So the moral of his story is if you see something, say something, please. And we're just happy we caught him before he was gone. So that's all we have to do.
all right, thank you. Okay. So who's going home with them? Okay. Well, you don't count, Ed. I don't. Yes.
And those adoptions, $22 adoptions are through Saturday. We're open on Saturday too.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. All right. We'll go back to item 5B.
No, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to be able to follow that, but I'm going to try nonetheless. All right. So, well, first of all, I just want to say, Council, I'm going to probably not speak as much as I normally do because I am still pretty winded from the. Hello. It's a little weak. Okay, so I'll just come a little bit louder then. So I just want to say is thank y'all for the 6 o'clock presentation of budget for you guys for consideration over the next few weeks. For those of you that weren't here for the budget workshop, September 13th will be the public hearing for both tax rate and the proposed budget to be approved. So going into some projects, so Council Member Simpson, he was preempted some things, and that's a great thing because I get to follow up. So he was talking about the mod distribution. The project that we're looking at, really working on, is we are going to begin the process of applying for the funds that have been allocated to us. And the project we're really focusing in on is going to be that siphon project for the Moores addition that we talked about, of getting water westerly into Benson Bayou. And then hopefully we could use some of that funding to also help channelize and dredge some of the bayou for more capacity in that bayou to hold that. We probably will also have some funding, possibly for an auxiliary project as well, but stay tuned for that. It depends on how these preliminary engineering costs come back for us. Also letting you know that we have applied for the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. That project would be a continuation of the West Gum Bayou project further west past California. So just kind of keep that in mind. I believe that we're looking at somewhere around $10 million that we're applying for there. We are in the process of working Gum Bayou widening as we speak. If you have a chance to go by Ray Holbrook Park or out by Barber and the high school, that's kind of the area that we're working with the school and county on. It's a city project, but very grateful to the county and the school district for giving us the easements necessary to work on those properties. The local housing buyout program is still ongoing. It ends at the end of the month. So just if you are in one of the 8 designated areas, please do reach out. We would love to work with you if it's a fit for you. We closed out, or we are in the midst of closing out Pin Oak and Nicholstone. Pin Oak a lot closer to closure. In fact, I think it's pretty much signed off on at this point. Nicholstone, we have sent letters to Lucas Construction, letting them know the deficiencies that we need to get worked out before final closeout. So, also looking at, so if you remember, I said in the budget meeting that we had received American Rescue Plan funding. We've already received the first half of that funding earlier in the year, and the other half of the funding is coming next month. So then now in the next fiscal year will be the expenditure, and the projects we're looking at is the fiber hardening of the network. We're looking at network security improvements. We are also looking at really beefing up our cloud-based services. And then the majority of the money is actually going to be spent on street drainage and parking amenities for the businesses that we had talked about in the budget meeting. Is kind of around the like 44th, 45th Street, Illinois Street, and so forth. We're really going to focus there. Caroline's going to be a part of that project as well, Avenue J and a few others. So just keep in mind. I am going to stop now because I'm pretty tired from the 6 o'clock.
So if you have any questions for him, ask, but I think he'd prefer that you did not. So we'll go ahead and say moving on to item 6, public comments. We actually do not have any public comments except for a specific agenda item. So we will get to y'all when we get to, I believe it is item 8A.
And Mayor, I had one thing that I forgot to mention with council comments.
Sure.
Okay. Just wanted to remind everybody, it's been 5 years in the making, and on Monday morning at approximately 7:32 a.m. Central Standard Time, the Artemis SLS mission is going to launch from Cape Canaveral. So that's going to be our trip back to the moon. It's a test case. It's an unmanned mission. It lasts about 26 to 42 days, but that'll happen Monday morning, the 29th. Just wanted to remind everybody.
So we'll move on to item 7, the consent agenda. The following items are considered routine by the City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion on these items unless a council member requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and discussed after the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion approved by Councilman Simpson, a second by Councilman Wilson. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move on to item 8A. Conduct a public hearing concerning a request for a variance from the 600 feet maximum length of cul-de-sacs requirement of Appendix A, Section 8B of the Code of Ordinances of the city, with such variance allowing a maximum, approximum 1,850 cul-de-sac length on certain portions of the property, and a variance from the minimum 200 feet or maximum 1,200 feet block length requirements of Appendix A, Section 8H of the Code of Ordinances of the city, with such variance allowing a maximum 2,623 foot block length on certain portions of the property for approximately plus or minus 47.23 acres located at 302 Avenue J and legally described as Abstract 1 M. Austin Survey, south part of lots 2, 3, and 4, enclosed ROW 2-0 McGregor subdivision. I would like to say in that description there, should it say 1,850 foot cul-de-sac length? I know we have to be very specific in these, so just make sure that we reflect that it's 1,850-foot cul-de-sac length. All right. With that clarification, we'll open this public hearing at 7:35 p.m. and we'll start with the staff presentation. Yvonne.
Mayor, council, this property is located, oh, hold on, I think I'm-
They can't hear.
This property is located west of Avenue J. It kind of jolts, but it's the old golf course. What they're actually proposing is a subdivision with two sections. Section 1, which was previously preliminarily approved but never recorded, which has since expired, and then this Section 2. It's zoned rural residential, so all the lots are required to be over 1 acre. And they're basically proposing a very, very long cul-de-sac with just an emergency exit through a reserve. Kind of zoomed in a couple different spots off of Avenue J. This is one piece that needs to be replatted. That reserve will need to be right of way to provide access to the Section 2. The two variances that they are requesting is the 600-foot length of the cul-de-sac and then the length of the block, which the length of the block in this case is the entire subdivision. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to applicant presentation. Is there an applicant here this evening? All right, when you come up, if you would, please state your name and your address.
My name is Ashley Caldwell, and I live where I live, 2510 DeFore Trace,
City and all that.
What city?
Seabrook.
Okay.
I'm here tonight representing CADA International and developer of Marker Oaks Ranch. Marker Oaks Ranch will be a 34-lot subdivision located on the old golf course, as she said. It's currently zoned rural residential. Due to the constrictions of the site, it's a rectangular fit, and in a grid would be roughly 3 acres wide by 15 acres long, with 9-acre pond in the center, which restricts the available options for the subdivision. It'll be low density with high quality rural community, and we're requesting the 2 subdivision variances that'll make the development feasible. Both variances are related and internal to the project, and neither variance will affect the surrounding properties. The variance request is for the 600-foot maximum and block length, or cul-de-sac, and the 1,200-foot block length. In lieu of the 600-foot cul-de-sac, we're proposing a midway turnaround in the center of the block. As we only have 14 rural lots, this would be more than sufficient if anyone wants to turn around prior to the end of the street. And this length would only represent 4 lots. The block length seems fairly immaterial with no clear purpose, as we would need to create a street corner to nowhere, and there's no real practical location where we could insert this on a single-sided street where the pond would be on the other side. We have real special and unique circumstances with the length and the width of the site, the pond location, as well as some protected trees along the frontage or along the long block length. The variances are necessary to preserve the property right and the ability for the applicant to develop the rural residential 1-acre development for each lot. The variances will have no effect on the neighboring properties as they're internal to the site, and the development will be private, gated community. The granting of these variances also have no effect on the orderly subdivisions of the property, as both are internal to the site and in line with rural development. And we did submit the change that she requested with the right-of-way and changed it in the other plat. Did you still have that? Okay. The one that I handed you? Okay. Well, it was changed to the right-of-way, that entry, internal. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to public comments on this item. We do have 3 people signed up to speak. We'll start with Mr. Russell Curtin. And if you would, just name and address, sir.
Russell Curtin, 121 Avenue J. I've been there since 1994. We built a house there, about 4 acres. It butts up to about a third of the way down on where the golf course used to be. I have a lot of questions. First off, it has no other, I don't know how they're going to drill individual wells for each house, whether they're going to get a water district, try and pull off of what used to be the golf course where they watered all the greens and everything. Second thing is, I'm not sure how, whether we don't have sewer there. Everybody has their own system because we're on the wrong side of the bayou. And yeah, that makes sense. So anyway, I have a real question about putting in separate systems. And when I did my perk test back in '94, we were still trying to do sewer systems. And so anyway, we had a wet spring, and the Galveston County Health Department pulled out. I dug the hole and put the nail in it, and you fill it with water. And basically, depends on how much it drains off over a 24-hour period. They come back the next day. They allot how many field lines you actually need. Well, I got 4 acres, and the guy comes out, and I actually gain a ½ inch because it's been really wet. And he says, "How much acreage you got?" And I said, 4 acres. He says, "I don't think you got enough land, son." So the bottom line of that was I was one of the first people in Galveston County that got the aerator, that would you not like your own private septic system that aerates it, and then it goes in there and you treat it with chlorine, and then you can spray it out in a sprinkler. And now they've gone to that where you have a smaller lot, because you used to have 2 acres. But now, from my understanding, they got smaller lots because they pressurize that through field lines in the ground. Well, the problem with that I see is if you get a whole bunch of houses and you're trying to pressure all that through the gumbo, then basically this all drains towards Dickinson Bayou. I have a real concern about how they do this and what goes into Dickinson Bayou. I mean, one of my questions is, has there been an environmental study on what's happening here? And the other part of that is, I couldn't tell by the drawing, but as you go down to where the old entrance used to be to Chaparral, before you get to it, it's Hilton Lane. Well, everything about 100 feet this side of Hilton Lane is actually in the flood zone. So I'm not sure how high they're going to raise this cul-de-sac they're proposing. Right now, our main road, Avenue J, is at 14.2 feet. And the center of the golf course, of course, it's the ponds running out there, but it's lower. During Harvey, we had water all the way up almost to Avenue J where it makes that dog leg. And so there's some real concerns about how high they're going to raise it. Are they going to bring in dirt around the cul-de-sac? And how that it's going to affect the people that already live there. And if you get past Hilton Lane, all the houses there got flooded. You get closer to the bayou, they had 6 feet of water in it during Harvey. Now, I know that was a once in a lifetime flood, but my issue is, if Harvey didn't even dump all that water, if we get a strong hurricane with a surge, where's the water going? That Dickinson Bayou will not be able to drain it because it has nowhere to go. So, anyway,
Okay.
all this stuff, and I'm really concerned about the environmental part of it. And I've not seen anything, and I don't feel like we should do grant a variance or anything until we get some more information.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm done.
Well, it's about 3 minutes, so yeah.
Thank y'all.
All right. And next up, we have Karen Curtin. Same drill. I know you have the same name and same address anyway.
Yeah,
But
same drill, second verse. Okay, all right. So I have the same concerns as my husband does, okay? I saw the flooding, I don't want to see it again. and I'm real worried about the elevation. I'm worried that whenever they build all those houses over there, especially on one single acre, you know, we are going to get a lot more water into our area, into our street, and we are going to end up flooded, you know, and we will not be happy people, I can guarantee you. And I know all the flooding that happened all through Dickinson. We've been here a long time. So I worry about that. And I know this is about the elevation of or the variance of the cul-de-sac. But to me, that's just sort of putting one thing before you get to another, you know. So we can give the variance to the cul-de-sac, but what are we going to do about the flooding? Is anybody going to do anything about the flooding when we flood? You know, that's my question. Who do I go to then?
Thank you, ma'am. And lastly, we have Richard Prince. Same deal, if you'd give your address for us.
Yes. I live at 107 Avenue J, Dickinson. In respect to what he was saying about the flooding, I live one house away from that Hilton. And when we get substantial rain, that whole area floods. And plus, we get water from Texas City. We've complained about it for years. Nobody's going to do anything about it. And down there where the water is supposed to drain from the old golf course ditch, there's just one line that runs underneath the street. And then there's a little bitty ditch that runs straight on out to the, well, I guess it runs straight on out to the bayou. And it can't handle nothing as far as flooding goes. That's just the beginning. Another thing, I see all these houses that's supposed to be built. Nobody has ever come to the public that lived there and said, hey, what is your opinion? I mean, what is your take on this? Or what about flooding issues, impact in that? Nobody said anything. That's the first time I've seen anything on it other than this letter that we got, we had to sign for, and it didn't even show all those houses that were shown on there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. We'll move on to the applicant's rebuttal. So if the applicant would like to speak, you may in response to any comments or may not. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Ed Figueroa. I'm with Shellmark Engineering. I'm at 2711 Puerto Bianco, Lake City. In regards to the water and sewer systems, we are following the code from Galveston Subsidence District into where each lot is going to have their own water well and septic system. They are meeting the minimum requirements to do so. There's tests and everything that goes involved with coming up with the different types of sewer systems. In regards to the drainage aspect, that is correct. It's a low-lying area. We are increasing and modifying that existing lake to maybe make it about twice as big in order to provide detention for that area. Back in the day, we used to, if your land was near the creek, you used to just be able to sheet flow it into the creek because the rainwater got to the creek before anybody else's water got from the city to the creek. After Harvey and all these other consequences, we've been working extremely hard with the Drainage District number 1, and we've also talked to the city engineer from the consultant from here. There's a drainage ditch number 11 that runs behind the subdivision that goes straight to the bayou that we're actually giving them additional right-of-way and improving that ditch so that we're able to protect that ditch. And I believe also the developer is looking at reshaping that ditch and cleaning it up, so to improve that area. So we're providing increased detention for the area for the 1 acre lots, which is going to be a lot less impact in the center subdivision. Mitigation, we're not raising the site. The street is being built at existing grades because the more we raise the site, the more we affect the neighbors and the more our pond gets bigger. So what we're doing is we're doing mitigation just for the lot, for the house itself, just for the footprint of the house. But everything else, we need to take in consideration the existing trees and the existing flood zones, so the dirt is not being brought in. We're going to dig each lot, each 1 acre lot is going to have 2 ditches on each side. So on each side of its property, not sharing, but every lot's going to have 2 ditches on each side to where we're taking our drainage, and our drainage is going backwards to behind the property to that drainage ditch number 10, I believe it is. So there's actually, we should improve Avenue J in that that existing golf course used to pick up all the water in that lake and then dump it across Avenue J. It's got an existing outfall that goes through Avenue J and it goes through some private property. We're no longer going to be using that. We're rerouting that line to where we're not draining. We're containing our own water and taking it to the back through drainage district number 1. So we've already provided plans, and we're going through the review comments with DD number 1. It's been almost a year. We've been working on this thing back and forth, and it's looking good enough now to where we can actually submit something to the city for their consultant to review. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions, but I think we've taken in consideration the flood zones, mitigation, detention. It's been a main key in the design. Yeah.
Thank you. We're not permitted to ask questions at this moment, but thank you. All right, so with that, we will adjourn the public hearing at 7. I'm sorry, oh, you got something to say as well?
Oh, I don't have to. Well,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'm just saying that, yeah, we're just asking for these 2 variance requests. We still have it is zoned rural residential, and we are abiding by all of the other necessary requirements, and again, working with the engineer. We also have the home builder and owner here tonight. But this just allows us to use the property and for the residential use that it's currently permitted as. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, with that said, we will adjourn the public hearing at 7:52 p.m. And we will move on to item 8B, consideration and possible action concerning a request for a variance from the 600 feet maximum length of cul-de-sac requirements of Appendix A, Section 8B of the Code of Ordinances of the city, with such variance allowing a maximum approximately 1,850-foot cul-de-sac length on certain portions of the property, and a variance from the minimum 200 feet or maximum 1,200 feet block length requirements of Appendix A, Section 8H of the Code of Ordinances of the city, with such variance allowing a maximum 2,623-foot block length on certain portions of the property for approximately plus or minus 47.23 acres located at 302 Avenue J and legally described as Abstract 1M Austin Survey, south parts of lots 234 enclosed ROW 2-0 McGregor subdivision. Do we have a motion on this to either to approve or deny?
I move to deny.
There's a motion by Council Wilson to deny the request, and there's a second by Councilman Decker. Is there any discussion? I actually have a couple questions I'll lead off with. Okay, so to be clear, first off, this would be just about the cul-de-sac. This has nothing to do with the development in any way, and it does not require an SUP just to build because it is a conforming.
Yeah, let me explain. So this is rural residential, and they meet all of those requirements. They do not, necessarily need, the way it's zoned is for minimum 1 acre lot subdivision. So what I want to say, and I was conversing with Justin about city attorney, was that the development in and of itself, whether or not and right now it would meet the zoning as they have it, and they're going to meet everything. We wouldn't allow them to build anything that doesn't meet the drainage requirements on stuff. We have all those things in place. The consideration tonight has to be about the cul-de-sac. It cannot be, oh, I don't like this development, therefore. All right, so for anything we need to talk about tonight has to deal with public health and safety, or the special circumstance of whether or not these 2 variances should exist so that they can develop the property. All the other stuff, again, that has to be addressed through civil plans and things of that nature that would come to you guys for site planning.
Kind of on, you're saying that, I am going to say something that might be slightly unrelated, but it's related. I'm going to go for it. I do know, I might be the only one up here, maybe some of our returning councilmen do know this. We partnered with League City for we gave them some money for a large regional drainage study that was, I want to say it was probably my first year as mayor, so probably 2021. I do know that this specific area was targeted by the GLO for a potential project for manufactured wetland drainage, things like that. I don't know if anyone is aware of that, but it was. And I know that's not what we're here to deliberate tonight, but it does seem kind of prescient, given that we're bringing it up. And I did want to ask in terms of the zoning, that it's already a conforming use what they're building, so.
Correct.
Okay, understood. So I'm just kind of throwing that out.
Sure.
Not so much for deliberation, but just an FYI. Are there other questions or comments on this item? Councilman Simpson?
One thing that I want to make clear on is.
Okay,
Oh,
Councilman
I'm sorry.
Simpson, is that
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He pointed to me, so, okay.
Councilman Simpson?
So, getting back to the variance, they're requesting to, instead of have a cul-de-sac length of 600 feet, for it to be 1850, and the staff recommendation was disapproval.
Yes.
I'm just curious, like, with a 1,800-foot cul-de-sac, how to, like you said, public safety, how does a fire truck navigate that kind of situation in that matter, if they want the cul-de-sac to be almost triple the length of our
So-
standard?
Yeah. So if you look at their site plan, and this is sideways, so the north end is on the left-hand side, they are proposing a 20-foot reserve for access only. Staff believes they could turn that into a road, adjust things slightly, where they would basically have a second ingress and egress to this development.
Okay.
The main reason for staff recommending disapproval is because with its slight changes, they could meet the requirement.
If I can go a little further into this is, I guess what's frustrating about this from my perspective as city manager is, if you have a situation where a fire truck needs to get to the end of that cul-de-sac, and let's say parking is an issue and we can't maneuver, I would like to see how this fire truck would make a right turn onto that 20-foot reserve. Is really upsetting to me, because I believe, and I do work with, and have a great relationship with Shell Mark. This 20-foot reserve would be an absolute hazard to try to maneuver a fire truck, because that's really what we're talking about. We're not talking about police trucks. We're talking about getting a fire engine to the end of this road. And the fact that we can't get something more than a 20-foot reserve is very disappointing.
Councilman Simpson, was that what you had? Okay, Councilman Wilson? Yes, you may.
Okay.
You go ahead.
I want to make perfectly clear, my motion to deny is strictly on the cul-de-sac part. I agree with the city manager, this thing is way too long. When you look at something like this, not only does the fire truck have to get down there, he's got to be able to turn around if necessary. And big garbage trucks too, the same incidence of them getting it down there. And I believe that there's enough property here to actually design this thing correctly if you just put a little bit more effort into it. I know the easiest way forward is sometimes to do things like this, so you pick up a lot or so. But you're also talking about the people going to have to have fire insurance, and trust me, the availability of a fire truck to get down there is going to be very important to your ability to get your fire insurance. So that's what it was about.
Real quick question, was Keith Morgan in the development meetings for this? Has he even been engaged?
Yes, he
And
has.
he's happy with this?
No, that is the reason, another reason staff is recommending disapproval.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Yes, if they,
Councilman Lynn?
if they add this, this second egress, do we know what the estimated length would be at that point?
It would no longer be a cul-de-sac.
Is that one of the two because the other variance is also the length of the block, correct? Is that the?
That's correct.
Okay.
So the block length is allowed to be, I believe, 1,200 feet. Let me.
That's what it says.
So the block length is able to be between 200 and 1,200 feet, and they're actually looking at doubling that. So, but part of that is because when you look at the site plan, they're only proposing one block. So all of that is one block. They're not dividing the block at all. So if they just moved
Okay,
another egress,
right.
and that's where, if it's redesigned and put additional egresses in where they have access onto the road, then they would be able to meet those requirements.
Right. My understanding at this point, until you said that, was that if they placed a second egress in there, that would then divide the 1850, by another number, bringing it within our requirements.
Right, so.
No,
you
they're
still have
asking,
to-
well, they're asking for two variances, you have to understand. So one is not just how long a stretch of road can be before you put a cul-de-sac in, which is one of the two variances. The other is the actual length of any city block in the city has to be a certain number. So we have two issues at hand. Might I ask, I guess in the review, at least from the staff side, were there any solutions presented to developer and representation?
So if you actually look also at, on this picture, the south side, which is the left side of the screen, that smaller cul-de-sac, they could take it down to Avenue J. It's very close to that other street, and possibly relocate the entrance that they're proposing to put in the middle. So just reconfiguring it to where they have 3 entrance points, then they completely do away with the long block length. They completely do away with the need for the long cul-de-sac. You end up breaking it up a little more.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, we'll take this to a vote. All those in favor of denying, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Motion carries with Councilman Brantley voting no. Or we'll move on to item 8C, conduct a public hearing concerning a request to amend the official zoning map from conventional residential zoning district to manufactured home zoning district for the approximately plus or minus 2.5 acres of property located at 3402 Ohio Avenue in the city and legally described as Abstract 19, Perry and Austin South, 1/2 of Southeast half of Lot 10 Nichols Addition Travel Trailers. Okay. And we'll open this public hearing at 8:03 p.m. We'll begin with the staff presentation.
This property
Long
is-
time no see. Go ahead.
This property is west of Ohio Avenue. It is actually the south portion of an existing manufactured home park. Half of it is zoned manufactured house already. The other half is zoned conventional residential. It was previously 2 lots. It's recently been combined and put together by the tax record. And so they're proposing to rezone the bottom half of that property to match the existing use, which is the manufactured house park. And that is all that staff has.
Wow.
Trying to fix the audio online.
Okay.
It works.
It's working. What?
I said the audio works. yes.
We'll move on to the applicant presentation. If you please give your name and your address, sir.
Hi, my name is Jack Basek, and I live at 705 Falcon Lake Drive, Friendswood, Texas. Council and city residents, thank you for considering our request. We are currently in contract to purchase this manufactured home community, and we currently own the manufactured home community that's next door to it. We've owned it in Dickinson since 2013. This property's been operating this way since at least 1983. We're basically just trying to have the ability where it's recognized as a manufactured home community. We go into a property and when we try and improve it, make it better, cure deficiencies, and I'm not sure how that's happened where half the property was zoned conventional residential because it's been a manufactured home community. And I'll just share a couple things about myself. We've been operating manufactured home communities since 2013. In Dickinson, Santa Fe, Hitchcock. I currently reside in Galveston County. We strive to buy properties that are just kind of close to us within 30 to 45 minutes so we can be actively involved. Once we take over a property, we go through and cure any deficiencies, work to implement rules enforcement, encourage homeowners to invest in their homes, find anything that might have been an issue not taken care of by existing ownership, and work to try and potentially bring in new homes as needed. This particular community is mostly long-term residents. I believe everyone has lived there over 15 years. Like I said, this is a family business for us. Those are my two helpers. If it was a little bit earlier, we could probably get them into the meeting and have them chime in. An example of one of the things that we'll do is once we go into a community, we'll try and establish, in this particular community, all the tenants own their own homes. So for us, we have to determine, if somebody owns their own home, or depending on if the park is buying the home, kind of changes the role of how you approach it. But typically, if a home's not habitable, we work with the homeowner to get the home demolitioned, because it's challenging to make people want to live there when it doesn't look nice. Again, just tearing down structures that are no longer acceptable standards. Big thing is rural enforcement. I know a lot of people here, like a trailer park, they have a stigma. We basically try and operate manufactured home communities. That's my daughter. On our last property, I think we worked with getting around 20 cats spayed and neutered, as well as getting some kittens adopted. Outdoor dogs, we don't allow them, and it's just not acceptable in those standards. We'll try and find ways where we can improve the community. This particular one, just the community mailbox center. And just having a place that people are proud to call home. This was actually in our property in Dickinson that we were able to work with the city, and there was no spot for a dumpster. If you could see on the left-hand side, so we had about 20 poly carts that we are embarrassed about, but we were able to have the trash company come out and come up with a plan where the garbage truck came in, and you cannot see the dumpster from the street, so it's kind of really made it look a lot nicer. This is a property that we had in Santa Fe that we took over. This was a parking pad that just had sunken in, so replacing the parking pad and getting the home painted and making it where it's nice and presentable. A coat of paint can make a big difference. Just either if a homeowner owns the home, trying to work with them to see the value in the community so they continue to do the same and take in something that was neglected and having people reinvest into their homes. And then just pride of ownership is a word I've said a couple of times. It's kind of one of our mantras. If you see that was, a home with a renter in it, and kind of that's the same home on the right-hand side, and kind of the difference, what they look like, and there's no cars in the yard, no dogs outside, or the portable tent. And after we end up having vacant lots, again, just kind of the same series of improving existing homes, is if there are vacant lots, what we'll do is, do our capital expenditures if we need to do a road, or if there's some other community problem. Once we have those vacant lots, we'll work with dealers to bring in new homes. I say if you build it, they will come, because if you can provide a nice community, our goal is to not own the homes, where we basically operate a subdivision where everyone owns their own home. That way they would go to like a Clayton or an Oak Creek. That's, I think, like an $85,000 home, and then, bring it into the community. Just more homes, and some of the homes that they make now are just phenomenal. And that's really our end goal, is to get to a spot where it's, if any home does get replaced or removed, then a new home is coming in that's going to continuously add value to the community. And it's a slow and steady process, because you're working with an existing base that has called it home for 20, 30 years. So you want to make sure that you're respecting them while also elevating the community. And this particular property, we would just work on continuously improving it and bringing it to a place where we can, operate it and have our rules enforcement on it. And that's everything I have on my presentation.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The next section is public comments. We have no public comments on this item, so we'll move on to applicant's rebuttal, which would be redundant as nobody said anything mean about you. So we will move on and adjourn the public hearing at 8:11 p.m. We'll move on to item 8D, consideration and possible action on an ordinance concerning a request to amend the official zoning map from conventional residential zoning district to manufactured home zoning district for the approximate plus or minus 2.5 acres of property located at 3402 Ohio Avenue in the city and legally described as Abstract 19, Perry and Austin South, 1/2 of Southeast, 1/2 of Lot 10, Nichols Addition Travel Trailers. Motion to,
What's going on, Chase?
Okay. Yeah.
The public hearing?
Yeah, we have to, well, actually, we don't have to do that, I guess, under state law at this point.
No, I mean, you can just accept the comment right now as part of the, as part of this
Yeah,
item.
if you would.
Yes, and hi, Jack. Me and my wife, we didn't know that we had to sign up for comments. We've lived there for.
Speak up to the mic.
Make sure you get the microphone. People are listening, so we want to make sure everybody can hear.
We've lived there for over 30 years. Like he said, a lot of people own their own homes and stuff like that. And well, our concern is, if hopefully they don't want to get rid of our trailer because it's older. But also, we've had the issues in the park with the loud music and the drinking has been an issue, and we've tried to work that out with the existing owners. And we were just, and the other thing was dogs. He said that they don't allow outside dogs, which is good because there's a history of dog attacks there. But the other thing is the reckless driving and drunk driving. There's a history of drunk driving accidents that people have rammed into our home. And also with public urination and the loud music from vehicles, which the police have said that 50 feet is shouldn't be heard or felt. And it's just like we can be sitting there and somebody will drive in that doesn't even live there and just bombard the place with loud music, and we either have to put up with it or call the police. And that and the drunk driving accidents and speeding is what things we just wanted to address.
Okay. All right, thank you. I would say if you do have if you have a response to any of that or you wanted to address it.
I appreciate your concerns. Everything that you had just mentioned is basically things that we would not want or allow. And when they're existing residents, we have no problem with older homes. I just want to be clear about that. As long as they're properly skirted, there's no debris around them. Our insurance company has certain rules where they will not allow a hitch on the front of it. So once we take over a property, there's some rules and a system where you're talking about where, if there's a repeat offender, somebody that's drinking, we do not tolerate that. Once we figure out who those people are, we basically create a system. If you're going to comply with it, or you're not going to be welcome to live there. Because for us, it's hard to, have a family come into the park when, there's a wild party going on. If you're familiar with the Village Mobile Home Park, which is next door to Pates, that one has actually had several of the homes that were there. They've refurbished them. The ones that we've torn down, they've brought in new homeowners. We have our residents work for the school district of Dickinson. They work at Shipley Donuts. There's a lot of very respectable people within our community. So it's, everything that you said, I just want to give you the assurance. Maybe it's not so relevant to the meeting here, but we want a place where you're going to be happy to live. You feel comfortable that, we're going to, if there's a complaint, we're going to follow up on it. And I hope that, If we can have everything come through within a year, you'll say, by God, we're really happy. If you know the property, there's been deferred, maintenance, there's dead trees on it. We're going to come in, we're going to, spend, $50,000, $100,000 on just, curing all those things. So that way we want to show you that we want to start off on the right foot. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. We are on item 8D. We do need a motion to either approve or deny this request.
I move to approve.
There's a motion by Councilman Linton to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Councilman Brantley. Any discussion?
Just for
Councilman Simpson.
Yeah, just for the record, staff recommendation was approval?
Yes.
Okay, and we're just voting to change the zoning because it's,
Some of it's conventional residential
yeah,
and some is.
like half of it is
Yes.
one thing and half of it's another. So this is just to fix that.
Yes.
All righty.
I have a question. So I like kind of what I'm hearing about wanting to, improve the nature of the community and everything. I do have a question for staff on this. So in the past, we've had issues, and not just with trailers, but just with people in general that, especially since FEMA has redrawn the flood maps, we've had issues, and quite a few that I've experienced from residents have been with trailers where, so they want to do what you suggest, and they say, let's get rid of this old trailer, but because it is in a floodway, we are basically not permitted to allow that. And so my question about this property is that an issue in this specific area that would maybe complicate the efforts of what this gentleman is wanting to do?
Why don't you start off and then I'll follow up on that.
Yeah, so state code actually allows the replacement of manufactured homes, just like for the most part, as long as it's newer and larger.
But even if they're in the
So
flood?
floodway is typically not the issue because you can't put it in the floodway, but in the floodplain, like the 100, then typically they may have to bring them up a little bit higher than what they would typically.
Okay.
But typically, they'd be allowed. So in this area, this is actually
So this is not a floodway?
west, it is not a
Okay.
floodway, and actually very little of it is actually even floodplain.
Okay.
There was a flood study done, but it ended at Dickinson Avenue, and this being on that east side, not as much of it is actually, it's not floodway going.
And I ask because there have been specific issues. I think there are some mobile homes in another area of town that it has been reclassified as a floodway. And I know
Yes.
it has caused problems with them repairing damage. And basically, we can't allow it. But that's not an issue here is what I'm hearing.
So what happened was that there was a flood study that ended at Dickinson Avenue, and to the east side, a big portion of that is actually
Okay.
floodway where we've ran into that. But on the west side of
Okay.
Dickinson Avenue, we do not have that same issue.
Okay, and Theo, you were going to add something to that? Or?
Yeah, so one of the things I was going to add is, in this situation, I just wanted to be very clear is that, there is a current use of the property. Yes, there is a zoning overlay that is incongruent with the current use. So, just to say is that even in a situation where even if you guys said, no, this is not a, use that we find to be, what we want there, which would be a little weird anyway, because you have 2.5 acres kind of sandwiched between two sides that are mobile home. But I did want to just let you know, kind of like the legal ramification is that it can still operate as a mobile home park. It doesn't really change that. What this really does is it helps clear title. And that's one less thing that when you're trying to have a transition of ownership, this takes one of those flags off of ownership. And we've done this with one of the properties dealing with a commercial property off of FATA, where it was zoned it's single-family residential, but it's a commercial building, so it always clouds the title because it's something that's a red flag. Oh, this is a non-conforming use. Beware, type of thing.
Okay, are there other questions or comments on this? Anyone? Okay. Hearing none, we'll take this to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That'll move us on to item 9A, discussion and possible action concerning the appointment of Bioanimal Services Board of Directors, Colin Coker. Is there a motion?
I move to nominate Colin Coker to the Board of Bioanimal Services as a director.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a second by Councilman Simpson. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have some discussion.
Councilman Simpson?
Given that Santa Fe is pulling out, do we need to, I guess, nominate somebody else, or who does that other person go to? Okay.
No, technically, the bylaws say that the city of Dickinson is entitled to 4 seats, and that's all it says. So technically, until the corporation no longer exists, Santa Fe will always have the ability to put 2 elected officials on, and Clear Lake Shores will have 1 until y'all dissolve the corporation or change the bylaws to reflect their absence.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll take this to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That'll move us on to item 12, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion to adjourn by Councilman Simpson, I think, a second by Councilman Wilson, or did I reverse that?
You
Who
reversed it.
cares? Okay.
You reversed it.
Sure. Motion by Councilman Wilson, second by Councilman Simpson. Well, you stole his time earlier, so it's only fair. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:21 PM.